God is not absent on my campus. This is how one Comenius Institute student sees our work at IUPUI. Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Eckel. Multiple studies show that 75% of Christian young people may leave the church altogether after attending public universities. One of the key ingredients to maintaining Christian faith commitment through college is personal, spiritual investment in students. We are committed to spending time with Christian young people. The Comenius Institute, where Christian wisdom and college life meet.
RadioNext.tv on the Cool Groove site. What do you think about that, Dr.
I do believe I like that commercial.
We are here. Dr. Mark Eckel, Harold H.B. Bell, and Woof and Woof Radio, the show that brings you the most informative ways to transfer life through understanding basically the book of Proverbs. Dr. Mark, please introduce them to Comenius Institute before we get this great show underway today.
Absolutely. Well, I'm actually sitting in the presence of one of our board members here at the Comenius Institute, H.B. Bell. Yep, Comenius is the famous John Amos Comenius, Moravian pastor who believed that there was wisdom to be found everywhere, and that was because he believed, as we do, Colossians 1:17, by him are all things held together. That's Jesus, and we're looking forward to talking about skills today as it relates to how we think differently as Christians.
And we're going to have a great show today. We have a guest coming in, as you know. Every week we have just great guests who are doing some wonderful things in our community, and Mr. Nate Hershey, City Life Wills, is going to be on the show today with a couple of his proteges, yes. And that should be, I love the young people, man, in the mind, so we're going to have a great show. As we do each and every week, we started off with some musical smooth jazz interludes, and then we're going to come back and dive right into this show today. You are listening to Woof and Woof Radio on the Cool Groove site at RadioNext.tv. And RadioNext.tv on the Cool Groove site, Woof and Woof Radio, RadioNext.tv, Dr. Mark Eckel, Harold H.B. Bell, every Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, bringing you the most comprehensive information necessary for your young people who are going away to college for the first time, and for some of you old people who need some
there you go.
some redirection in your life. But no, man, this is a great show because we're talking about the importance of practical skills, and sometimes this gets overlooked and left out of the equation in everyday living. And as we know and we talk about all the time, everybody is delicately designed to do something special in this kingdom. Whether you know it or not, you are unique, authentic, and designed to do something special. So we're going to talk about practical skills today and the importance of it. And does everyone have to go to school? We always talk education, Mark, for the same things. And is vocational education important? Two-part question.
It's an important issue to begin. So, as always, I like to tell stories. I remember a time when I was teaching, this was a number of years ago now, I had a young man who could not take tests. I mean, he just could not do it. And so, without telling anybody, and if you're a teacher and you're out there listening to this or you're listening to the podcast, you know what I'm talking about. You do stuff so that you help young people because you know them, because you're with them. So this young man, he couldn't take tests, and so my direction for him was to actually let him build a test board for the rest of us, because he loved electronics. So he built this test board for us. And it had two little prongs, the right and the wrong answer and all that kind of cool stuff, But that kind of thing is the flexibility that teachers need in the classroom. Instead of teaching to the test, and we don't want to go down that road, but nonetheless, we need to have some flexibility. One of the difficulties we find today in education generally is this great desire that people have to do mainstreaming, and that everybody has the same classes and the same curriculum, and we don't want to be discriminatory. Understood. Absolutely get that. That's not the issue, however. What we need to do is do more of the differentiation, which is also a big deal in our courses, so that within our classes, students who don't learn in a certain way can learn in a different way. And I get that too, but here's the real rub. If you got 30 kids in a class, and you have 6 classes like this every single day, I did this for 10 years running, I understand what that means and the pressure that's on teachers to do this kind of stuff. So bottom line to the question is, do we have to go to school for the same things? No. Is vocational education important? Absolutely it is. And I think we need to carve out a section of our educational processes for the young people that desperately need this, because as you well say, HB, everybody's designed in a certain way, and once we see that design in that individual student, because you're with them, because you're the teacher, because you know, then you can actually help that person down the road.
You know, and what's scary for me is that a lot of the vocational classes that, as a 57-year-old man, that were offered in the school system when I was coming through are just eliminated now. Wood shop is gone, home ec is gone. You know, everything that could even give you a hint, as is this little young mind, you know, geared towards this field, are gone.
That's right.
And so the blanket education, as you mentioned, just doesn't work. It's not effective for everybody. We always talk Proverbs and how it relates in our everyday living. How does Proverbs and what does Proverbs say about skill development?
Man, there is so much stuff in Proverbs about this. We could go to chapter 8, 10, 12. There's lots of different places, but I just wanted to focus on one verse here, and that's Proverbs 22:29. It says in Proverbs 22:29, "Do you see a man skillful in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before obscure men." So here's the thing. If you're really good at this thing, whatever this thing is that you do, that's the basic bottom line to skill, is that you're good at something, then people are going to notice this, and they're going to see it. And it doesn't have to happen today. It doesn't have to happen tomorrow. It might not happen for a couple of years. Remember the story about Joseph. He had to spend 2 years in a prison before his time came. So when we see these kinds of things, I think it's important for us to recognize that when you're doing something really well, don't stop doing it really well. Keep doing it really well, because eventually somebody's going to notice this thing and sit up and take notice. And by the way, this didn't start in the book of Proverbs. This goes all the way back to Genesis. We'll talk about Genesis as well, but I wanted to mention Exodus too. One of the key ideas in Exodus 29 to 35, the chapters are, is that you had a guy by the name of Bezaleel and a whole bunch of folks who were working with him that were actually building stuff for the tabernacle. And these guys were skilled. The Hebrew word is the same word there. They were skilled, meaning they were really good at what they did, just straight up bottom line. And once they were invested in this kind of thing, they just committed to it. And it's really something to see whole sections of Scripture committed to people that are practically skilled.
Well, how ironic I mentioned just that when I had Dr. Yip and Dr. Echo, and I was using just that this morning about your skills shall set you amongst, you know.
Yeah, there you go,
man. I mean, really, but that's ironic. But so then as Christians, how should we think differently about vocational education and skill development? What should we really focus in on?
Sure. So I always go back to Genesis. You know, to me, if you're going to go to find out what things are supposed to be like, go back to Genesis. So in Genesis, you find embedded in this book and embedded within the design of God's work that he literally, in Genesis 2:2, it says that it references God's work, and the Hebrew there means to finesse, to have craftsman-like abilities. And then he forms and structures things like the light and the darkness and the water and the sky, all these things that God did. And then he designs it, and the phrase there is, "and it was so," and you see that all the way through Genesis chapter 1 until the universe was complete. So God created an order of creation. He designed the operation of his world, your word. He designed the operation of his world, and so he designs each individual, every human skill, construction, form, craft, whatever it might be, so that those folks who have different abilities can use those abilities in the world around us.
And as the body, we have to work together.
There it is.
And that is probably what we lack most as human beings right now, is to know how to be part of the body instead of this is my thing.
That's right. Yeah.
And then you mess yourself up.
Right.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to find out just a little bit more about skill development and what we can do to enhance our young people today. This is Warp and Woof Radio on RadioNext.tv and the Cool Groove site. RadioNext.tv on the Cool Groove site. Warp and Woof Radio. Dr. Mark Echo, Harold H.B. Bell in here getting it on. I'm telling you, man, this is right where my heart lies. You know, instruction and trying to get the most out of our people. And we're talking about the importance of practical skills today and how it relates to the book of Proverbs. Ma Echo, before we go into the second segment, we love you too, and just want to give big shout out to the Queen of Denver out there.
There you go.
But we're talking about practical skills and how important they are, especially today. It seems like the tools of technology have kind of watered down these practical skills. I mean, you no longer have to have great oral skills to be able to communicate. You don't have to write well to be able to transfer your information. How do we meet people where they are? In mentioning just that, with the gifts they have, and how we honor their impact, what they bring to the society, Mark.
So, I got to start with this story, man. This is one of those stories that still kind of rocks my world. I went into this bar one day, and I'm going into the bar because I'm getting boxes to get my books, because everybody who knows that the best kind of boxes to put books in are alcohol boxes. So I was in a bar, and I said, "Hey, you got some boxes?" And he said, "Yeah, I got about 20 boxes. Come on up." So we go into this little compartment up above the bar, and there are all these alcohol bottles turned upside down with little tubes coming out of them. And I said, "Man, I've never seen anything quite like this before." I said, "What's going on?" He gets all excited. He says, "My bartender down there, all he has to do is punch in some numbers, and the immediate and exact amount of alcohol comes out of whatever bottle he's just punched in the number for, and it fills up the glass, and it's a perfect pour, and everybody's happy because it's speed, And so here's a guy who's, invested in a bar, and he's saying, this is really important to me, and he was really excited about it. And I was excited for him because it was important to him. I think about guys down at Monster, for instance, who actually came up with this phrase, "Your calling is calling." I love that phrase. Your calling is calling. And then there's eHarmony. Now, eHarmony is most often known for connecting people who want to fall in love and that kind of thing. But eHarmony also matches bosses and workers. This is an absolutely fascinating thing. Not much is said about it, but eHarmony actually does that. But I wanted to tell you about a friend of mine who actually went out of the industry. He worked for Cummins, which is a very famous and important builder of engines around the world. He came out of Cummins Technologies and went into the pastoral role because he really felt like, maybe he could work with people better there. After 18 months, he decided, this isn't for me. And he went back into Cummins again. He went from the plant to the pastorate to the plant again because he was made for the plant. That was the kind of person he was. So you know what? You don't have to be a great Christian and then, decide you have to transfer into a pulpit ministry. No, you just work where you're at with the skills God's given you. Here's another example of this, and I don't know if anybody out there has actually gone to Pike Place Fish Market out in Seattle, but they are world famous. I don't know if you've ever seen this. They have these little YouTube clips where you can see these guys throwing fish, back and forth.
They are 100% into it.
Oh my word, yeah. They're so good at it, And then they get the customers involved, and everybody's having a great time. Well, they actually put together a DVD for leadership on how do you create a workplace that people want to be at.
Yeah.
Now, why do I want to go to a fish market to be at their fish market? Because I feel like I'm a part. And there's the incarnational theology. You feel like you're a part of this community. We talk about this all the time, and it's so important to everybody.
And more important than water, more important than hunger. People need to be loved first. Yeah. I mean, I don't make these rules up. Yeah. This is the order of.
There it is.
So being a part of something is so important in the growth of whatever organization it might be. What community opportunities are available for young people, skill development?
Sure.
I know I work with a lot of youth programming, but give me some ideas.
So I think one of the big ones that we could really invest some time in as Christians would be ESL, which is English as a second language. And what the folks do, I know there's a group, for instance, in Noblesville, we have a tremendous influx of foreigners coming in, and I don't remember exactly the ethnicity of the individual group there, but a great group of people. And you've got a whole bunch of English speakers who are learning their language. You have folks who are immigrating into this country who are learning English, and they are so thankful. They're so thankful to have somebody to come alongside them and help them learn. Another example of this would be one of the folks that we actually had on the show, Floyd Carson. You remember when Floyd and Keisha were here?
Oh, yeah.
And we had wings that day. Remember?
Yes,
I brought you some Eckel wings.
Yeah.
So HB saying, when are you going to do that again?
Yeah.
Floyd Carson does fast cars and barbecue. And he was interacting with me this morning on Facebook about this stuff. He said, this is so cool that you're having Nate Hershey and City of Life Wheels coming in, because that's my thing. I love fast cars. And that's what he's about. And so you find the thing that you're passionate about and you go do that. Let me give you one more example of this. And I just heard about this week. A friend of mine lives up in the Carmel-Noblesville area, and he introduced me to something you probably already know about, HB, and that is this group called Dream Alive.
Yes.
Dream Alive with Tarek Glenn, who used to play for the Colts, offensive lineman. I'm looking at his picture online right now, so you go to dreamaliveinc.org. That's dreamaliveinc.org, and you see the team there, and you see the kinds of work that they're doing. And I got so excited about this that I'm thinking, we got to have Dream Alive up in here and do a broadcast just to promote their stuff, because they're doing such really good work.
Yes, they are.
So we want to do those kinds of things. We're reaching out to people who are reaching out to people. That's our job. Our job in the radio is to say, look, see, this is what's going on in our community, and we need to publicize it, broadcast it, all those good things.
Absolutely phenomenal. And before we take this break, I'm just looking at these two questions that we covered, and it's important for us to understand in the skill development side to get to know the young individual.
That's right.
That you're trying to guide. The Bible clearly states, you diagnose who they are and
That's
then
right.
guide them as an arrow in the
That's right.
direction that they
That's
should
right.
go. Yeah, Brother Bell preaching up
Look
in here
at
this
you,
morning.
man. You are
We're
the
gonna
theologian.
We're going to come right back, and we're going to continue this great discussion on the importance of practical skills, how we should cultivate and embrace them in this walk. And we're going to also get ready for Mr. Nate Hershey of City Life Wills and find out what he's doing in the community as well. This is Warp and Woof Radio on the Cool Groove site. RadioNext.tv on the Cool Groove site, Warp and Woof Radio. Dr. Mark Eckel, Harold H.B. Bell, entering the last segment in our first hour before our special guests come in, Dr. Mark, Mr. Nate Hershey. And he is the founder of City Life Wills, and we're going to find out how to apply practical skills
We
with
sure
real life skill makers.
That's right.
So we can't wait. Just can't wait until they come in. But we're talking about how to apply and the importance of practical skills, especially in the life of our young ones, and it is our responsibilities as adults to be able to observe and see which way a young person might be best headed, and then guide them in that direction. Who's writing, talking, showing about how Christians should be invested in skill development, Mark?
So when you ask me about the writing issue, it immediately brings a story to mind, and so I'm going to read this story to everybody. It's one that I've read to congregations in the past, and I've actually spoken on vocation and work. So here it is. When I watch my dad's hands, big beefy hands with broad stubby fingers, each twice the thickness of my own, they could never play the piano. When I watch those hands delicately split the back of a mackerel, or with a swift true stroke fillet a flounder close to the bone, leaving all the meat together. When I know that those hands dressed and peddled fish from the handlebars of a bicycle in the grim 1930s, cut and sold fish year after year with never a vacation, through fire and sickness, thieves and disaster, weariness, winter cold, and hot muggy summers, twinkling at work without complaint, struggling day in, day out to fix a just price, in weakness often, but always in faith, consecratedly cutting up fish before the face of the Lord. I love that. Cutting up fish before the face of the Lord. When I see that, I know God's grace can come down to a man's hand and the flash of a scabby fish knife. And here's an example he writes about this. I remember a Thursday noon long ago when my dad was selling a large carp to a prosperous woman, and it was a battle to convince her. Is it fresh? She insisted to know. It fairly bristled with freshness, had just come in, but the game was part of the sale. They had gone over everything. Eyes were bright, gills a good color, flesh firm, belly solid. The price was right. Finally, my dad held up the fish behind the counter. Beautiful, beautiful. Shall I clean it up for you? As the lady grudgingly assented, she said, My, you certainly didn't miss your calling.
You didn't miss yours either, because I'm telling you, I was caught up in all those descriptives of
Isn't
that.
that something?
Man, that is powerful, though.
I'm telling you, man, that line, cutting up fish before the face of the Lord.
God. That is unbelievable, and we really have to get back to appreciating. I know I say it all the time when you can either lay bricks or you can build a cathedral.
Yeah.
And the bricklayer that is building a cathedral
Right.
he's taking his work like art. It is what I'm designed to do versus I have to go to work. And too many.
Think about that, the cathedral. So since you mentioned the cathedral, I got to say, think about these guys. In Italy, let's say, for instance, in the 1600s.
Right.
I mean, it took what, 80 to 100 years to build one of those cathedrals. These guys are dead by the time
They never got to see their work.
Got to see.
Yeah.
Right. So what are they thinking to themselves? They're thinking, hey, I'm contributing something past my life.
Exactly. And it's going to be here forever. And
Yeah.
now we look at it in amazement,
It
like,
is.
wow. And it is amazing
Yeah.
because we have new tools of technology that can't build
That's right.
that type of architecture today. How do we become involved with the influence and gifts to help skill development? How do
Sure.
we do this?
Well, I got 5 points here real quick just to help folks get a sense of this. First of all, I think the most important thing is to know yourself. So, HB, you know who you are. I know who I am. Everybody needs to know what we are passionate about, what we're gifted to do, what our interests are, what our commitments are. So when I think about who I am, for instance, I think I'm a teacher first. I'm a people person because I love people. I think people are really important and powerful. When I think about you, I think about a communicator. I think about a connector, somebody who's out in the community and not just talking about it, but he's doing it. So when I think about it, the first thing is we need to know ourselves. The second thing is we need to find people who have our focus and bent. So if we're going to fill into the lives or put into the lives of others, we got to find those people that are really interested in that, and Nate's going to help us with that in the second hour because he's reaching out to guys that are interested in cars. That's where he's been. Third, we need to reach out to folks who have needs. So here you've got Nate Hershey and City Life Wheels. They're reaching out to youth, young men who probably don't have the same kinds of opportunities that other people have, and they love to work with their hands. So you go find people that want that kind of skill. The fourth thing I'd say is you need to find others with whom you can partner up. So with Nate, for instance, or with you, or with me, or any of us, we're partnering with people who are saying, you know what, I don't do what you do, but let me contribute in this way, whatever that way might be. So you partner with other people. And then number 5, you're going to love this one. You need to get busy. Get
Do
busy.
something. Instead of all that daggone talking and meeting all the time. Talking and meeting. It annoys me when we can spend 10 hours a month meeting and can't spend 1 hour working with some young people.
Yes.
But every time we meet, we're talking about let's go work with young people. I'm like, shouldn't that be about flipped, or go give about 10 to 20 hours a week working with young people and then meet and talk about how we can effectively do this again next month?
I'm sitting over here laughing because I knew when I said that I was going to set you up.
I am so annoyed with the matter of the process, and the process is do something.
Yeah.
Do something, and all this complaining and all this getting on these soapboxes and talking about what's wrong. We know what's wrong.
Yeah.
To me, I know what's wrong. We don't give enough time to our young people. But what's wrong is we're always talking about how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Just go do it.
That's right.
Just go do it.
That's
Now,
right.
you got me all fired up. You knew
that
what
way.
you knew. You already knew. So what are some Christian websites that promote positive and a broad view of how we can become involved in working with different youth programs?
Absolutely. So I'll mention a few. I got a big smile on my face though because I know I set you up. That was so cool to watch,
You
man.
should have you didn't have that in there. Shoot.
There's one that everybody needs to know about, and that's the Institute for Faith, Work, and Economics. If you're looking it up on the web, it's TIFWE.org. That's TIFWE.org. Institute for Faith, Work, and Economics. They have got some of the coolest videos out there. These little 2-3 minute videos about how important everybody's work is. I'm looking at the front page of their website. It's fantastic stuff. They do great work. Another good website, another good group out there that does fine work is called the Theology of Work Project. So you just go to theologyofwork.org, and they've got all kinds of resources. They have folks who are invested in work, chaplains, looking for chaplains in various businesses and workplaces. Really good things going on with that organization. And then one more, I've got to mention Stephen Mansfield. Stephen Mansfield is one of the coolest dudes out there. Not only is he a great orator, not only is he a great writer, but he has got some of the greatest events going on. And one of the latest things that he's been working on in the last few years is something called the art of manliness. The art of manliness. So I'm looking at this feed that's running through in the front, the screen in front of me here. And here you see guys like Michael Irvin from the Dallas Cowboys, standing next to Stephen Mansfield. And you got this whole room full of men who are just listening to every word this guy says, because what he's doing is really good stuff. So you find the people that are doing the good work. I'm thinking about a Stephen Mansfield, for instance, who's attracting men. You find that that's your focal point. You go after that. You write about it. You speak about it. And those are the kinds of folks we need in the world.
And we would be remiss if we didn't mention Dr. Mark Eckel and the Comenius Institute and the great work that they do over at the IUPUI campus. No, in real seriousness, helping people discover how and what's proper,
right,
and how to live, and then hopefully, that next step would be for them to enhance and embrace a good Christian lifestyle. That's big work, man.
It is, man.
That's huge work. So just thank you so much. When we come back, we're going to meet the man, the myth, the legend, who is doing some great things. And I love this program because, as we mentioned before, it takes so many different types of programs to reach the different youth and what their interest levels are. And we have almost become immune to cars. And that used to be the bond between an uncle, a father, or whatever, and their son or nephew or their little cousin or whatever, because that's, you could work on cars. But now, you can't work on your car.
That's right.
You need to take that little lid cover off that, says whatever your car is on top of the engine. So it's going to be interesting to find out what Nate is doing to get young people involved in cars. Nate Hershey next on Warp and Woof Radio on the Cool Groove site at RadioNext.tv. All right, and we are back. Harold H.B. Bell, Dr. Mark Eckel in the house, Warp and Woof Radio here on the Cool Groove site, and we do have our special guest in the house. And before we meet our guest, Mark, please remind them one more time about Comenius Institute and why we are here each and every Wednesday between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Sure, absolutely. So we believe as Christians that by Him are all things held together. Colossians 1:17, by Jesus are all things held together. And our focus is seeing wisdom wherever we find it throughout the world. And so our focus today is on skills, the practical skills of working with your hands. And we are just thrilled to have Nate and Edgar in the studio with us today. Gentlemen, we're glad you're here. Kind of give us a general sense about yourselves, your family, your location in Indianapolis, your experiences, anything you want to talk about family-wise. Go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah, so again, my name's Nate Hershey, and I'm the director of City Life Wheels. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. Live in Indianapolis with my wife and 2 young boys, and have lived here for about 15 years, and been a part of a number of church communities, and part of a church in South Broad Ripple called Trinity Church, and really love Indianapolis and love being a part of the city.
That's great.
Okay, I'm Edgar. Edgar Lopez. I have a big family. I still live with my parents. I moved here 10 years ago from Mexico. Just graduated from high school. Being here with Nate.
That's great. Yeah, we're glad, man. Congratulations on graduation too, by the way. That's a big deal. And congratulations on being American. This is a wonderful place to live, and we're glad you're here with us. So Nate, kind of give us a general overview of what y'all do there at City Life Wheels. Kind of take us from the beginning, the reason why you did this, talk about some of the folks that are invested in this, and of course we're going to have Edgar chime in here from time to time as well.
Yeah. So I began working with young students in elementary schools and IPS schools, IPS 68 and 88, with an organization called Password Mentoring. And at that time, I was working with some young boys and girls that were already in some pretty significant trouble, even in elementary school. And that was the beginning of a seed of a dream for me, which was to wonder where some of these young kids would end up, even by the time they got to middle school. And at that point, I did not know anything about the automotive industry. I'd never actually changed oil before, and I began to dream about what it would be like to put a practical skill in the hands of these young kids. So I went back to school, got an automotive degree at Lincoln Tech, worked in the industry in multiple dealerships and automotive shops, and great shout out specifically to Ed Martin Nissan and Integrity Automotive. Those places have been great resources for me in my training, and the whole goal for me was to work in the automotive industry, to learn the trade myself, so that eventually I could become a teacher and to mentor young men and women. So thus, that was the seed of that vision. Fast forward, after that vision, Youth for Christ, Central Indiana Youth for Christ, had already started that, something called City Life Wheels. They had some cars that were beginning to be donated. They had the idea and the concept, and they needed someone to start the garage, develop students, and to begin to direct that. And so I began to do that 4 years ago. And since then, we've been working with students like Edgar from various parts of the city. Specifically, most of our students have come from 46201, so the Near East side of Indianapolis. And so our goal and mission is to equip and train young men and women in the automotive industry so they can have a tangible skill that they can use in the real world. And the heart of it, though, at the same time, is the life skills, the work skills, and then paired with mentoring relationships where they're in authentic Christ-sharing relationships. And so that 1-2 punch, so to speak, of learning the practical skills and being involved in a relationship with someone who really cares about them and walking alongside them in their faith is critical.
That's huge.
Yep. So that's kind of what we do.
That's wonderful stuff. And Edgar, I only have one question about Nate here now as it relates to the whole thing. Can he still change oil today?
Yeah.
Is he good?
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He's pretty good. Okay. I just want to check on that because, the man had to go to school for this. So that's an important question now. So, Edgar, let me ask you specifically about your investment in this. What did this mean to you when you found out that, hey, there was this organization out there that could help me with something that I really wanted to be invested in? Tell us about how you got involved with it.
Okay, well, I was at school one day, and he showed up and, showed us, he had a dream, he wanted to teach us how to do it, how to, have this skill. And, I showed up one day at his shop, and he's not only, teaching us, but he's, shaping us to be mans. I was a little kid, I was a freshman. Not making the right decisions, but he had a big part of shaping me as a man, getting me to where I am now. I graduated thanks, to his guidance and, guiding me. But yeah, he has a big part in my life.
So the two things together that I think are really important and powerful for us are to make sure that we see not just the skill development, but the personal development.
That's right.
So we were just talking about this before you came on air. We talked about incarnational theology, so being with people. Talk about the necessity and the importance of this discipleship aspect of life that you're invested in, Nate.
Absolutely. The heart of what we do comes back consistently to Ephesians 2:10 for us. Ephesians 2:10, obviously most are aware of that passage, which is we are God's workmanship created in Christ Jesus to do good works. And there's two parts that are critical to that. First of all, that you're loved and you're valued, that we are his workmanship, he delights in us and enjoys us. And then secondly, that you have a place in the world, that you're valuable in what God has created and to do good things. And so those two go together so closely. And so what we want to do is help young men and women understand that they are loved well in that relationship with them, and that they can be set free and on a path of transformation and hope to do good things in the world.
And so it's not just being able to change the oil.
Right.
There's this relational component that's really important. Absolutely. We talk about this all the time. In fact, one of the taglines for this program is do good, do good, do good, which is out of Titus 3, the commands for Christians to actually do this. So, Edgar, when you think about being involved in this industry and think about how important it is, the kind of teaching and training that Nate has given you, for instance, how do you see yourself in the future, maybe even passing this on to somebody else? Do you see that happening for you? How does that happen for you now?
Well, I do have a job at AutoZone. I keep, going with, cars.
Great.
I have a dream to go to college one day. help him out, teach more kids how to,
Oh, good for you.
how to work on cars. Maybe I do want to own my own shop, work at a dealership. I have dreams, and he's a big part of those dreams. Like I wouldn't have those dreams if I hadn't met him. And he created, a goal, and that, he brought God into my life, that kind of stuff. And I'm really grateful for him. And he's had a big part of my life.
That's great. So a big shout out and a lot of love to AutoZone too, along with the car dealerships, right? It's interesting that you mentioned the Ephesians 2:10 passage, because in the original language, in the Greek, the word for workmanship is literally poema, which is poem. We are poetry. We are God's poetry, which is really fascinating when I stop to think about that. When I see people that are really good at what they do, like when I go to a jazz kitchen, for instance, and see somebody on the sax, I think the same thing about you guys. When I take my car into the shop, y'all are, as far as I'm concerned, you're poets. You know what you're doing with that stuff. Talk about the issue of connecting your skills with beauty. I don't know that we've necessarily talked about this in the past, but how do you see what you do as beauty and adding to the general sense of benefit to other people?
Yeah, I would say, anyone who is doing what they're made to do, if they're doing it well and doing it really from their heart and from what they've been given to do, it becomes poetry, right?
Yeah.
And regardless of what it is, whether it's plumbing or automotive repair or designing clothes, you fill in the blank.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing to watch someone do that. And watching some of these guys learn for the first time some of the basics of automotive repair is an example of that. I remember before City Life Wheels had a garage, I worked with a young man he was actually homeless, and he was a teenager, about 18, and we worked on a car on the side of the road. We had no tools and no garage at this point, and I was helping him show him how to replace a battery. And so we're on the side of the road, and a group of his friends walk up, and they say, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he had just connected the battery. It's a pretty basic repair, right? But it's something that he had never done before, and so for him that was a huge accomplishment, and I was proud of him that he did it. His friends walk up, and the look on his face was poetry, right? It was like, I did that, and I'm proud of it, and just to see that continue to grow. And to see God manifest himself in that way is pretty amazing.
That's great.
So I love to watch it.
So, Edgar, I got to ask this question. I mean, do you have that look on your face from time to time when you feel like you've done really good work?
Yeah. I'm really proud of myself, to get to this point. Graduating high school, and after finishing a job in a car, that's a big accomplishment. And that takes a lot of work, and it's just
that's big. That's huge.
Yeah.
So we really are kind of transitioning from an issue of pride. Certainly, when we talk about pride, by the way, just for anybody who's listening, we're not talking about pride in terms of arrogance. We're talking about pride in terms of confidence. We're talking about the pride that comes when you do something really well. You're going to laugh when I tell you this, but when I mow my grass, I've got half an acre that I've got to mow with a 22-inch mower. And when I'm done, I stand at the back door and I look at my back lawn.
Yep.
Do you feel that way?
Absolutely. What's that?
Like I did it.
Yeah, I did it. Yeah, and you feel good about that. That's a very important, powerful thing. And it really goes back to this thing about what we're made for and how we're designed to be. So, Edgar, I got to ask this question. This was something HB mentioned early on in our first hour. He said something about everybody is designed to do a certain thing. Do you feel like you've been designed for this kind of life for the future, to work with cars and be invested that way?
I mean, it's something I learned to love, and I love it. Just after, sometimes I spend a week, touching a car, working on it. And when it gets, time to, do something in the car, it feels, great, because, you're moving around, you're doing something, you're fixing something, and that's really takes stress out of you, and it feels good. It's something good to do.
That's great. And Nate, just to finish this first segment of our show here with you guys today, talk about how you feel when you're with these guys and you see them do the accomplishments you see them do.
Oh, it's pure pleasure. I mean, it's joy, really.
Yeah.
You know, and that's especially when a lot of the guys on the Near East Side of Indianapolis come to us. Not all, but a lot of them come to us with a very little hope, very little purpose, and very little sense that they are worth something to offer that they can offer the world.
Yeah.
And so seeing them transition there, you know, we're still a pretty young ministry, and so we're starting to see the fruits of some of these guys starting to catch that.
Right.
And I get to be a part of it, you know, and I'm a small role. A lot of these guys are making choices on their own. That I play a role in our team, our leaders, our adult volunteers are critical in that. Maybe Edgar, you can also speak to some of the other guys at Wheels that have played a role in your life. Maybe you could say something about that. That would be a good piece.
Well, Zane is another person at Wheels. He's, you know, we're really good friends. We play around and stuff. But he, you know, he's so, like everybody at Wheels, especially Nate, they're always someone that I can come talk to in case I have some kind of questions. You know, not only about life but work, any kind of question. You know, like girlfriends and all that stuff.
That's good, man. That's good.
They're really, you know, helpful, and they have support, and they'll do anything to help in case I need a ride or I need anything. You know, they're there.
They're there. That's great.
Driving through Crown Hill Cemetery at our first test drive of his car.
That's good stuff, man. Yeah. HB, we heard the phrase "pure pleasure."
Yeah, and I wanted to ask this question because before we go on break. Yeah. Talk about, Edgar, once you found out something that you knew you were good at, the sense of self. Talk about how that feels when you know that I know something that I'm good at. Talk about what that's like.
I mean, it feels awesome, you know, knowing that I found what I was born to do. You know, like in education for the rest of my life, something that is gonna, you know, be a part of my life to, you know, maintain a family and everything like that in the future.
Wow.
That's big, man. That's big. Absolutely. Powerful. HB, take us away, man.
Man.
This is good stuff. I know you're excited.
Yes, I am. This is growth, man.
We are at RadioNext.tv at the Cool Groove site. This is Warp and Woof Radio. You listen to us every Wednesday from 10 to noon. We are excited to be here. HB and I had a great time first hour. And now we've got Nate and Edgar up here from City Life Wheels, and we are discussing the issue of mission and an overview of City Life Wheels. So, Nate, again, give us just a general overview of what City Life Wheels is and what your vision might be for the future.
Yeah, so we teach and train automotive repair to at-risk youth or youth in general on the Near East Side of Indianapolis. And so we are teaching automotive repair and all in connection and with authentic Christ-sharing relationships. So getting our young men and women connected to the automotive industry and into authentic relationship with adults.
That's great. Yeah. And Edgar, just real quick again, how has City Life Wheels directly impacted you? Just kind of tell us a little bit more about what you've already said.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit more about what you've already said.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit more about what you've already said.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit more about what you've already said.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit more about what you've already said.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit more about what you've already said.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit more about what you've already said.
Well, I did, you know, I did have a tremendous growth in, you know, my personality. I was a kid. I was, you know, running around and everything, and I wasn't on task on school. You know, my grades were horrible.
Okay.
But I started to grow up and, you know, kind of get better grades. As soon as I graduated from high school, I was like, I have a goal. I want to go to college. I'm gonna go. I started working. I started applying everywhere to find a job to save up for college. It's just, you know, the dreams, and I'm still a young kid, and I have a whole life ahead of me.
That's right. Absolutely. And so, you know, one of the problems with radio is that we can't see your face. And so for all the listeners out there, Edgar's got a big smile on his face, and his eyes just light up when he's talking about this stuff, just so everybody knows. So, Nate, why did you locate to the Near East Side of Indianapolis, and why is Indy just generally important to your ministry?
Yeah, so we are actually part of, City Life Wheels is a part of Central Indiana Youth for Christ. So we're a ministry of Youth for Christ. And Youth for Christ has been in Indianapolis for many years. And so we've desired to partner with the Near East Side and all the needs that the Near East Side has and the blessings as well. Because it is a really, it's a place with a lot of specific needs, specifically related to youth that are needing direction and hope and purpose. And the Near East Side of Indianapolis also has a lot of great organizations and churches that are doing some very good things. And so we love being able to be in this location and be able to partner with them and do this together. And that's a really important part of what we do. So.
And just so everybody understands what the Near East Side is like in Indianapolis, tell us a little bit about the demographics and specifically maybe some of the more specific needs that the East Side might have that other sides of Indianapolis might not have.
Yeah, well, as I talk about the Near East Side, the Department of Public Safety has identified 6 focus areas of the city that they have said these are the areas that are most needing some of our general support. And some of the reasons that the Near East Side is looking for and needs that support is that the income is low. There are a lot of homes that are in disrepair. There's a handful, quite a few kids that are youth that are not graduating from high school. So there's a high dropout rate for some of these neighborhoods. There's quite a bit of crime. And on the positive side of the Near East Side is experiencing some significant growth in some of those areas. And there's a lot of partners and people that are putting in some good work to support the community.
So one of the things that you would like to see is you would like to see police cars in your shop, but not outside your shop.
That's right, exactly.
So we're really interested in making sure that the good that you're doing on the East Side generally benefits everybody on the East Side, so that we can see the benefit to the whole community there. That's just huge.
Absolutely.
So Edgar, when you heard about this particular group, City Life Wheels, why was it so important that it was located near you, near where you live?
Well, I mean, there's not that many people who, want to do something like Nate is. And it's, every time I look at him, I see, he's happy about what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And he does have, some kind of spark and energy every time he's with us. We have activities and stuff that he puts together, and he just wants to hang out with us. He probably sees us as, his kids or but yeah, he watches over us. He makes sure we're all right. He will text us and ask how we're doing, out of nowhere. And that support is great, because I know he's always there, and if I need to drive around the cemetery to learn how to drive, he'll be there.
You're driving around Crown Hill, huh?
That's right. Hey, it's a great place. It's a great place to learn. You can't do a whole lot of damage there.
That's good.
Yeah.
So the emphasis now, let's shift our emphasis a little bit toward the business community. You mentioned a couple, and I'd like you to repeat their names again when you talk about this. But how have business leaders responded to City Life Wheels, and specifically give us some examples of that?
Absolutely. We have just been very blessed by a number of, let me back up for a second and say this. So our shop, we have recently purchased a shop right in the smack dab in the middle of that focus area, number 5, that the city has identified. So we are at East Washington Keystone. It's a 11,000 square foot facility that we've just begun renovations on. It's right in the neighborhood where a lot of our guys can walk to, ride bikes, or get there by bus line. So it's right in the pocket that we're excited to be in, and we can expand our programming, serve more students by being a part of this, having this facility. So we're super excited about that. And the reason I mentioned that as well is that we've got a lot of partners who have helped make that possible. So we receive about 140 donated cars a year. Those are the cars that we work on. Wow. Those are the cars that students tinker with, play with, take apart, and repair, and then we eventually sell those cars.
Nice.
And, that helps continue to fund the organization. So the partners that have made that possible, for example, Kessler Schaefer Auto Auction does significant work for us in helping tow these cars and pick them up for us, eventually selling a lot of them.
Nice.
They'll tow them to our shop for us, and that they have been a significant partner on many levels. Odessa Auctions as well. Napa Auto Parts has donated quite a bit of equipment and made quite a bit of connections for us. Bob Butler Toyota has made some significant contributions. Collier's International, N.A. Williams. So a lot of great companies, that's just a few, that have come aboard and come alongside us. And and they're basically saying, hey, we value what you're doing. We like that you're investing in our community, and you're investing directly in an automotive industry which is hungry for work. Hungry for good workers.
And connect back again to Indianapolis. Why is the car and Indianapolis why do those two things go together? Really?
Right. Well, obvious, right? If you're going to do something in the automotive world, why not start in the Indy 500 world here? Right?
There you go.
So it's a perfect city to do that. And a lot of people who, of course, love cars, love racing, and then there's just a booming automotive industry in terms of automotive repair and everything that's connected to it. And so it's a great opportunity for young men and women that can get into the industry, and whether they want to turn a wrench or not. There's from sales to parts to the whole bit, and there's a lot of opportunity. So. And
Edgar, you're working at AutoZone, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your work at AutoZone and about how glad you are to be there. What your focal point there is.
Well, sorry. Him teaching me how to, all these skills, how to about parts. I know what the customer's looking for. If somebody has a problem, I can, guide them on how to do it, and I can help them, fix the problem, the cheapest way possible. That's a big skill that he gave me. It's really fun, working, helping people out at AutoZone, giving them their parts to fix the cars and everything.
So the connection point that Nate made with you about being relational and having good relations with people is kind of rubbed off on you in that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing. So we just had someone wander in here on us. Would you like to introduce him, Nate?
Absolutely. This is Gussie Jones. And Gussie's been with City Life Wheels for quite a while. He's a great guy, and glad you could be here, bud.
Yeah, Gussie, tell us a little bit about yourself. Yeah, move up to the microphone and tell us about what you're doing and why you like City Life Wheels so much.
My name's Gussie. I've been with City Life Wheels for almost 2 years now. It helped me a lot. Like when I have car troubles, I can just go fix it, like when I'm far away from home, or help other people out. And sometimes I help people out at work. I'm a manager at Domino's, going on 6 months now. Some of the drivers, they have cars issues, so I try to help them out and see if they can get back on the road or if they have to go home or not. But Nate, he helped me out a lot. It's because if I didn't know about cars, I wouldn't got my first car. That's why I got my first car, or wouldn't know anything about cars, like if I was on the side of the road or helping family member or friend out.
That's great. And man, congratulations on being a manager. That's impressive stuff right there. And not only that, but you're helping your drivers out. Wow, that's really cool. That's really great. Oh, we're glad you could join us here this morning to tell us a little bit more about this and give us another face in the life of City Life Wheels here.
And Mark, I might say something about, what's interesting about, I think it was about 1.5 years ago, we were in the shop, and sometimes we'll give these guys clipboards to do assessments on cars. Well, Gussie took the lead one particular time. I remember this time, and there's a couple of our adult leaders there with him, and Gussie was quite the manager at managing the other folks doing the car repair and doing the inspections. And one of our leaders said, his name was Tim. You remember this, Gussie? And Tim said, basically, Gussie, I would follow you as a manager. I think you'd be a good manager someday. Fast forward 2 years later, and here he is at Domino's. So it's fun to watch him grow up. And he was a little dude before, and now he's becoming a man. It's cool to see.
Check you out, man. You're
handsome little brother too. We get ready to put him out too.
Yeah. So this is important. When we're talking about the next generation of people who are coming up that are going to be taking care of our cars for us.
Well, here's what I want to know.
Yeah.
I have a 2001 Ford Taurus.
Here we go.
No, I'm getting ready to donate a car.
Oh, look at you.
I'm serious. I have one that has a blown head gasket. I'd given it just to show you the goodwill to my buddy Phil here, but he hasn't taken on the responsibility of going to get it titled. So it's sitting right out there in that parking lot.
All right.
Pretty good car. Has a blown head gasket, but that'll be something good for you guys to work on and then get it up to par. And whatever goes after that is your
Thanks very
business,
much.
man. No problem. I just think it's phenomenal what you're doing, man. So
Very cool.
it's sitting out there, and we'll talk about that when you get off the air.
We'll just drive it off the lot.
That's what
today.
I'm talking about.
Or maybe not. Right?
Yeah, you might want to get your
Yeah,
towing buddies down
we
here.
might need to tow that one. Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, it'll drive now.
Oh, it will
It'll
drive?
smoke. It'll smoke the joint up after it gets hot, but it will drive. It can make it down on Keystone and Washington. But no, I think would be great for them to have something to work on. That we diagnosed the problem, and now you got you another set of wheels over there. So
There you go.
yes, sir.
This is huge. I mean, when you work with cars like this, I can't imagine that it's very neat. I imagine it's kind of messy and you get kind of dirty doing this stuff, right? And here we have we've just kind of gotten a little dirty around the table here. Kind of throw. Oh yeah, here, have a car. You can have my car. That's kind of cool that kind of stuff works out that way. So let's move on to this next issue of the intentionality aspect of what it means to be invested in the life of an entrepreneur, a business person, and then connecting with this with ministry. Nate, tell us how the entrepreneurial business spirit, ministerial spirit kind of fits together for you.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about what is an entrepreneur, right? It's someone who dreams and is creative, and then starts to get to work, right? And they do hard work to make it happen. And if I can teach some of these guys how to do brakes, for example, but I show them exactly how to do it, and I'm doing more of the work for them, and then it comes time for them to do their own brakes, and they can't do it because I did most of it, right? I haven't really done them a good service, right? Well, part of what I'd love to teach them that I want them to know how to do their brakes. Gussie needs his brakes done on his Subaru right now, right? But what I want him even more is I want him to learn what it takes to learn how to learn, right? That's what it takes to be a good entrepreneur, to have that skill of knowing how to figure something out and go get it, go get it done. Because whether Gussie may never work in the automotive industry, for example. He's already shown the desire to work where he's working now, which is great. And that's kind of our heart. It's like, yes, automotive skills we will teach, but along the way, if you can learn some of those more critical skills of how to learn, how to apply yourself, how to put yourself in a good position in any career, that's an invaluable skill.
We talk about this on the show almost weekly. We talk about the necessity of teaching people tools.
Right.
So, for instance, I've been a teacher for 30 plus years, and one of the things that I say all the time to my students is, I don't teach you what to think, I teach you how to think. So guys, Edgar, Gussie, you tell us about this idea of what does it mean to learn the tools of the trade, and not just about wrenches, and socket wrenches and stuff, but about what are the skills that you are being taught that you can't put a finger on like you can on a wrench, but what are some of the skills that you've been taught that are going to take you down the road into the future? Tell us a little about that.
Well, a big part of it is, making decisions. Decisions that, they're the right ones, and, that's not going to affect anything. And, how to, manage and, manage money, like even, how to manage your money to save up and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
Like working in teams.
Working in teams,
Yeah,
okay.
teamwork.
How to work well with people.
Friendship.
Friendships, yeah.
All the little stuff.
And that's stuff that you can't put your finger on. Friendship, you can't put your finger on working with people, but you know how important it is. And this just kind of strikes me, but how important is it what people look like on the outside versus what they're like on the inside? What's more important to you? What are they like on the inside or the outside?
The inside, their heart.
Yeah.
Their heart, yeah.
If they're doing the right thing, in their heart.
Good. Yeah, it really doesn't matter what we look like. There are 4 guys sitting around this table right now, and anybody listening to us and those who listen to the podcast later on can't see what we look like, but quite frankly, that doesn't matter. because what matters is the kind of thing that's coming out of us as people and the kind of emphasis that we want to have in the community and doing good. So let's move on to this next issue about skills and gifting. Talk about why skills and a person's gifting are important. How do those things kind of match up for you, Nate? And explain that as it relates to these guys.
Yes. So skills and gifts. I think everybody's born with some natural stuff, right? Some natural gifts that they come up with, but not everybody can take those gifts and use them. Like, the difference for me would be a gift of being able to turn a wrench, but if I have this skill to know how to use that carefully and specifically on a particular project, that's something that needs to be taught and learned, right? So I think that's maybe one of the biggest differences. Gifts we're often born with, but skills are something that we learn to apply our gifts well.
That's great.
Yeah.
When you guys think about this, Gussie, Edgar, when you guys think about the skills issue and your giftedness, how do you see yourselves as being gifted? What do you see yourself when you look in the mirror in the morning? What do you see? Who do you see as a person that's looking back at you? What are your giftedness? What is your giftedness?
Giftedness. My gift is like having people there for me.
What is the motivating force inside of you? What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning?
My job.
Your job? Yeah.
Gets me
Good.
out of bed. Sometimes I get up early in the morning to help my sister and brothers get to school.
That's
them.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So helping people skills. Yeah, the issue of people. That's huge. And for you, Edgar, how do you see this?
What gets me out of bed is, my dreams.
That's good.
What I want to do in the future.
Yeah.
Have a family someday. That's what gets me up.
That's great.
To work. People get upset because they're going to work. I'm not upset. I happily work. I wake up early in the morning. Not surprisingly not tired.
Yeah.
Which I would feel when I was going to school.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's I have my dream.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big skills that taught me how to follow my dreams.
That's good.
And how to keep at it. I remember right before I turned 18, you remember those wrenches that you gave us?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he gave me my first 3 tools.
Oh, nice.
And that gift was a lot meaningful because I'm using them, and every time I use them, I'm thinking about he gave them to me, and he made this happen.
That's great. Those are good things, good memories too for you as you think about the future. All of this matters so much to all of us. When you said, Edgar, that you wake up with joy, that you're looking forward to the day, you look forward to work, you need to talk to HB, because HB, he was just telling me again this morning, he said, man, people go to work, I see them going down the road, they're all angry and stuff in their cars. He said, I'm never angry. I get over to the side of the road, I let them go by me because I'm looking forward to going to my place, and he doesn't really view what he does here as work. He views it as this giftedness and the skills that he's able to develop and the folks he gets to bring into his orbit, that kind of thing is huge. So it's really fun to hear you guys talk about what your gifts are, what gets you out of bed in the morning. I tell people, my students all the time, that really purpose can be boiled down to that. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What is it that really brings you joy? So that's something always to consider.
I was going to say, Mark, too, I think what gets related to the Near East Side and some of our areas of our city that are struggling the most, is a lot of the assumptions we make is sometimes that some of these young guys don't want to work, or that they want to sit around on their couch and do nothing and just waste away their life. And that's just, for a lot of guys, it's just not true. And these are 2 examples right here, 2 good guys that they want to do something with their life, and they have purpose and meaning, and they're ready to go. And so, and like I need relationship and people in my life, I need to know that God cares about me, that I'm following Jesus in the middle of it all, and He's leading me in that path. And so we're following Him on to do good things,
right.
And it's cool to be a part of it and to let these guys experience that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
go ahead, Edgar.
Let me add on. When I first started working, I didn't have a car to get to work.
Okay.
So I this was a big part. I was riding my bike in the mornings, 6:30, 7:30 in the morning to work, and like I was motivated to get to that point, even though it was like even a couple of days I had to walk because my bike broke. It's like a whole hour walk.
Wow.
And walking. But I was determined to get to work on time, and earn the money to go to college.
Good.
Yeah, and that's a big, a bike. And then it got to time where I earned enough money to buy my own car, and that car was, it's my baby.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
I earned it.
That's good. When you pay for something yourself,
yeah,
that makes a lot more difference than if somebody actually gives it to you. In some senses, that's really a powerful idea. Those concepts. So, why, Nate, is it important to mentor and disciple the next generation in skills? We often think about discipleship in terms of this nebulous, let's all get together and talk about Jesus thing, which is obviously important because he is the foundation for why we do what we do. But in terms of the skill development of discipleship, talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, these guys already talked about it a little bit. Some of the skills in learning to work with teams, learning how to motivate yourself, learning how to be good friends. I mean, all those things are critical, right? And then the specific skills in this, we have lost apprenticeship, right? To be apprenticed into something used to be common, 50, 100 years ago, where you would walk alongside another family member, you would journey with them, you'd be working on wood or working with metal or whatever. There's very practical skills you would learn, you'd watch, and then you'd go on your own. And we have a lot of floaters, right? A lot of floating across, not just the urban areas, but across the country, where young men and women are growing up without someone to watch. Whether that's a practical skill or if it's just someone who's mentoring and paying attention. And so it's critical. And you talked about being dirty. It's like part of it is like we as adult leaders and adult people in the community have to decide, are we going to get dirty with the people around us in a very loving, intentional way.
Guys, do you think about this in the future? I mean, Gussie, you're already doing this in a managerial role right now. How do you guys think about this now that something has been given to you? Nate's come alongside you. How do you see yourself as doing that in the future with other people?
Well, my parents didn't graduate from high school. The second. My brother graduated from high school. I was the second to graduate from high school, but I want to be that first one to actually graduate from college. My brother couldn't make it because he couldn't afford it, but I'm pushing myself to that point where I will graduate and have that certificate in my hands. That's my big dream.
That's great.
And automotive is what I want to do when I want to go to college for. It's just a big step, and I'm working really hard to that point. Yeah.
So Gussie, I'm interested in the managerial role that you have. Tell us about why you think people are so important and why you want to give to people.
I'm good with working with people. I like to help people out and be there for people. So, say for instance, somebody call and say they don't have enough money or short, I manage to let them slide sometimes. And it's kind of a fun job to see new people, meet new people, trying to build a relationship. You don't want nobody coming in there every day, new faces, and don't know them. But the people I see often, we have communications. We talk while the food gets ready, or I give them a little extra. That's what the job's about. Give them what they want. Give them something extra. Just little feedback.
Taking care of people. Yeah, taking care of people. Yeah, that's good. You mentioned the word apprentice, Nate, which is really interesting because last week we had Apprentice University here. Apprentice University is actually a brand new kind of university. It started here in Indianapolis, and the whole concept behind it is linking young people coming right out of high school into college connections, but not in traditional college. So they're linking them with business leaders. And what's really fascinating, you guys probably won't like to hear this, but the very first thing these apprentice university students have to do is they have to go work on a pig farm for 3 weeks. Work on a pig farm for 3 weeks. Now, I can think about a pig farm as being really dirty, but when I think about guys that get dirty, I think about guys who are working on cars. I would imagine that that's kind of a dirty job. So do you see this kind of emphasis where you're working with your hands as very fulfilling and a positive impact on the people around you?
Well, you know, it is dirty. We always end up, you know, shirt dirty, you know, greasy hands. But we get the job done, and when you finish, you know, changing your brakes, because when I first got my car, I needed my brakes changed, and it wasn't a day where we were gonna meet, but I asked him if he would, you know, help me out, you know, because we had the tools in the shop. So we met up. He did his starter, and I did my brakes, and we were like each doing our jobs. I would call him up every time I needed some kind of guidance and, you know, fixing my brakes, because I got stuck a couple times. But yeah, he was there. He's always there, you know, whenever we need it.
That's great. That's a good thing.
And there's, you know, and I also want to say, you know, what's been amazing to watch is these guys are also now becoming a blessing to me and to our other team and our other leaders. These guys both have bought me lunch for the first time.
Ah, that's great.
Right, which was always flipped the other way for
Sure.
many years. And so it was really cool to watch them have earned their own money to be able to cover lunch and bless me. And we have an amazing team of leaders, adult leaders, who are mentoring and being part of these guys. Lots. You want to speak about Matt at all? Matt, any of those guys?
Well, Matt, almost like the whole time he was giving me the ride to Wales. We're actually meeting up Friday to eat a huge burger, so we kind of planned on it. When I broke up with this girl, he kind of, you know, I got a gym membership to, you know, take away, you know, something to do, and he took me to the gym. He was like, and he kind of got me discounted.
Nice.
You know, into his like plan, so it's cheaper for me. I mean, he's really helpful. He's also someone that I can talk to every time I need anything, any advice. And most of the time he asks his wife, and then he tells me.
Is this about girls in particular?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. Gussie, how about you? What kind of relationships have the folks at City Life Wheels had in your life?
They had relationships are very good. Like for Matt, Matt, Nate, and Harvey. You know, we sometimes link up, get together. I've been over Nate's house a couple times to help with his the paint.
Yeah, you have them paint for you, huh?
Yeah, they actually did a little work project too.
Nice.
Yeah,
to experience the trip. Yeah.
It's a couple guys' house, and Tim also. It's like if I need them, I could go on to them and get advice for them, and I can turn to these guys to talk to or get help from.
That's great.
Anything.
Yeah. Nate, we're just about out of time here. Do you have a last word here for us this morning?
Yeah, you know, it just maybe this is an encouragement to everybody who's listening. You know, that we do this specific thing called City Life Wheels, and we have cars, and we work on cars, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts. But one thing that keeps coming back to me is that someone who turns to the person next to them in their neighborhood, in their church, in their work, wherever it is, pays attention and says, how can I serve this person next to me today? How can I listen to what Jesus might want for this person and love them well? And that's really the heart of it.
That's
right?
great.
And and that's what's exciting to be a part of. I am blessed by that, being able to give and receive, and I get to watch it happen on the Near East Side and all over the city with a lot of different ministries. So
that's great. Nate, we're really glad that you're doing what you're doing on the Near East Side. Edgar and Gussie, thanks so much for joining us today. We're really glad that you guys could join us and spend some time with us this morning. HB, we're coming back again next week, but in the meantime, we are RadioNext.tv and the Cool Groove site. You're listening to Warp and Woof Radio every Wednesday from 10 to noon. Stay tuned for the 10 Point Coalition.
All right.